This is Friday, July 8th. There are 12 days until San Diego Comic-Con 2022. Welcome to SDConCast, the official podcast of the San Diego Comic-Con unofficial blog.
VANUHTEE, go.
Oh my god, I love LiveJournal, and my LiveJournal loves me. Current mood is hyperactive, current music, refuse 73. I love the color scheme, it's pink and purple.
Hello, all. I am your host, James Riley, and joining me on the podcast tonight, as always, Carrie Dixon.
Hey, guys. Thanks so much for joining us.
And outside Comic-Con herself, Kim Twombly.
Hi, guys. Thanks for having me. Every time I hear that song when I'm on or when I watch, I always remember I need to go check my live journal. It's been a while.
You have a live journal still?
I think maybe.
All right, so welcome to this special edition of the SDConCast, part 1 of 2 of our annual Breaking Down the SDCC Schedule. We'll take your comments and questions throughout the show. And you can tweet us at SD_comic_con or use the hashtag SDConCast. We will also be keeping an eye on the YouTube live chat if you wish to comment there. Mostly what we're going to be covering today is going to be the schedule, but we do have a few things that we wanted to talk about before we get into the schedule. So if you have questions about other things, we probably won't answer those until the very end because we want to talk about mainly just the schedule today. So first off, we wanted to talk about Hall H wristbands, correct?
Yeah, we've had a lot of questions about these and about well, if you get the wristband, do you get to leave? How long does it take for the wristband distribution to happen? So James, why don't you just talk a little bit about wristbands?
All right, so the wristbands, the first thing that happens is you have to be in line by the time stated on the site, which is anywhere from, I think, 7-ish to 9:15 at night, the night before. If you're in line, they start handing them out at the front of the line. They hand out wristbands in 4 different groups, A, B, C, D. There's about 1,500 wristbands per group because that would fill Hall H. So the way that they do it is if you get a wristband, they guarantee that you are getting into the first panel of the day as long as you're back in line by 7:30 a.m. the next day. Now, what does back in line mean? It means you can stay in line the whole time and wait overnight. It means you can leave the line and come back and get at the end of the wristbanded line and get back in. And it also means you can leave someone from your group or multiple someones from your group in line and come back to where you were in line after you leave and come back and sleep in a hotel or get some food or whatever you're going to do. And so you're guaranteed in as long as you're back before 7:30 a.m. What else do we need to cover about that? What other questions were there?
How long, do you recall how big the groups are?
So it will take hours to get through all of the wristbands, sometimes late into the night. I think at some point on when they're handing out all the way through the end of the wristbands, it's actually taken almost until 6 or 7 in the morning, depending on how many people they have to actually hand out the wristbands. For groups, if you want to save places in line while you're doing things, like if you get in really early or even if you have gotten your wristband and you want to be able to leave, there has to be one person staying in line for every 5 other people that you're going to hold a place for. I don't know if, how well that's policed or if it's up to everyone around to just make sure that, one person isn't holding space for 40 people. But that's the rule, is you can only hold space for 5 people. And how fast it goes is really just how fast it takes and how many people they have handing them out. But it is going to take many hours.
Yeah, it is not a fast process. Yeah, for sure. It is not at all a fast process.
And I think, let me see if we have any other questions about the wristbands. Let me see. I think that's about it. So what that does is, of course, that means you have to be in line before they start handing wristbands out. But technically, as long as you have someone there by the time they get to where they're handing them out, where you may be in line, you don't have to necessarily be there exactly at that time. So like if you know that your friends are like 2,000 people back, roughly, you know that at the start time, if the start time is 8 o'clock, they're not going to get to you at 8 o'clock because they can't get through 2,000 people in 1 minute. So you have a few minutes. As long as you have someone in line with your group, or you know that the end of the line is not more than 6,000 people long, you can get there when you get there.
Yeah. Someone in the chat just asked about ADA, and for ADA, they have their own line, but it's pretty much the same process. And
Right.
I know I had somebody ask this morning, like, do they really expect ADA to camp out? Unfortunately, yes, they do.
Yes. The line is against the building where Hall H is, not under the tents. So maybe someday they'll actually put tents up for the ADA, because they don't even do that right now. They haven't at any point in the past, but we will see.
Yeah. And then just a few more quick questions. Felicia asked, is it generally a slow process just to get a wristband for Saturday, or Friday slow too? It's slow every day. I mean, there's always, at least, quite frankly, 1,000 people in that line. So, I mean, it takes them a while to get through it. It's just a matter of whether it takes them 2 hours or 4.
Right.
Or
And Christian
longer.
asked, when have they announced when the next day line will start? Yes, the times are up on the site.
Well,
that's when they're going to start handing them out.
Yes, that's exactly it. You can line up like whenever, and people will. If you have never done Hall H lineup, I mean, it can start. Saturday's line will start, honestly, probably on Wednesday. But you do not need to do that in order to get into the room. Those are the people who want to be up front, up close. Like if you just want to get into the room, that is what this entire podcast is kind of about. We are going to talk about Hall H and Ballroom 20 and all the other rooms. And when we talk about times, what we are talking about is the time that we think you need to be in line to get into the room, not to be like first in line, but to get into that room. So,
Right.
Yeah.
All right. So the other thing we wanted to mention is about 15 or 20 minutes ago, the exclusives portal opened.
Yep.
And it's the same process. It's just a completely different way of doing it, but the idea is the same. You have a certain number of credits / tickets / whatever you want to call them to apply to exclusives or signings each day. Right now, there's a certain amount of things in the portal. In the past, they have added things all the way up until almost right before the portal closed.
Yeah.
So
and currently, it also doesn't say like when it closes.
Right. So. And currently also, it seems to be only available for general attendees. So far, I and Carrie have not been able to access as press.
Yeah.
So we will
But in
see
years
if that
past, we
changes.
have.
Right.
Yeah. And it may just be that that's the case now. I know professionals previously were not able to enter, so they may have taken that option away for press now as well. But we will see.
We shall see. What else do we have? I think that's about it. And we can probably start getting into the schedule, correct?
Yeah, because the schedule's going to take a while. So let's dive.
So first off, let's kick off with Wednesday. Okay, we're done with Wednesday because there is nothing happening. The usual WB pilots are not happening in Ballroom 20. So,
and hold on. I want to talk about this for a second because actually Leonard, who I know is watching this, sent me a really strange message and asked if I thought it was, I think, Comic-Con wanting to rent out the convention center piecemeal on Wednesday. I don't think it's that. I think truly Warner Brothers scaled back their presence. And I think because WB-TV is basically not at the convention, that means no panel, no pilots to show. So therefore there isn't a pilot screening on Wednesday. So I think that's all that is. But yeah, no Wednesday night pilots like usual, which means the only thing to do on Wednesday is the floor.
Right.
Yep.
So for questions about things like the portal and anything that's not about the schedule right now, we're going to hold those until the end of the show, if we can, or on Tuesday, it's going to be nothing but news and exclusives and Q&A.
Yep.
So you can also check the site if you have questions. So if questions about like elaborate on the portal, We will absolutely do that on Tuesday.
Yeah, or you can also tweet us and I will answer those when we get off. But right now, my answer is probably it's open for general attendees only at the moment, and I don't know.
Right.
Those are my two answers.
Okay, so what we're going to do, we're going to start on Thursday. We're going to go through a series of rooms. We're going to cover what's in it, and then we'll talk about room flow.
Yep.
So first up on Thursday, starting in room 7AB, and the capacity of that is 480, according to the Convention Center website. And it's kicking off with celebrating 50 years of Jim Starlin at 10 a.m., and that is Jim Starlin, the comic artist and writer who is the creator of things like Thanos and the Infinity Gauntlet Saga, Dreadstar, Gamora, Drax, is celebrating 50 years in the comic industry. And it will basically just be an interview of Jim Starlin about his life in comics. Next up at 11 a.m. is the third annual Hollywood Game Changers, a conversation with the women behind popular film and TV projects. And it's a panel with people who are involved in things like Obi-Wan and The Flight Attendant and P-Valley and more. It features Jennifer Fang, Hannah Friedman, Arlene Martin, Melanie Jones, Cameron Lennox, Kaylee Witcher, and Bridget Bork, and moderated by Naveen Crumble. So this is basically just a discussion about their careers and how they use their craft to champion women's empowerment, diversity, and inclusion in the industry. And while I'm in the middle of this, let me state that in these smaller rooms, these are some of the smaller rooms, the panels will basically run right up against each other. So it will be 10 to 11, 11 to 12. There is no gap. The panel itself will actually only run about 55 minutes. So they have time to do a little bit of movement of people in and out, but there is no break in between panels for you to, do a lot of room movement. Next up, we have From Script to Screen, Behind the Camera of Film and TV. And that is music supervisor Jennifer Smith, Peter Chapman, Ben Sims, Jason Michael Primrose, director Wendy Stansler, composer James Chappell, and moderated by Chris Villain. It's basically the second series from this company who just did the one I just mentioned previous. And it's basically people talking about their work and everything from pre-production to post-production. Next up, cosplaying film and TV characters behind the scenes with industry designers at 1 p.m. And that is a bunch of costume designers and other craft and crew members like Megan Kasperlik, Bernadette Croft, Barry Lee Moe, Carly Herbert, and Chris Villain and cosplayer Chad Hatter are the moderators. So this is, again, a series that they're doing, and this is the third in the series in this panel room this day. And it's about cosplaying your favorite characters. Then we have Re-envisioning Hollywood at 2 p.m. with actor Eric LaSalle and photographer and author Carol Augustus to discuss representation in Hollywood and on bookshelves today. Then at 3 p.m. we have Motherland, Fort Salem, The Final Battle. And it is featuring the creator, executive producer, Elliot Lawrence, to discuss the new and final season of Motherland, Fort Salem. It is moderated by Damian Holbrook. Next up, we have Help Save Comics with Golden Apple Comic and Art Foundation, which is a new 501c3 charitable organization dedicated to celebrating and preserving the art form. And it features the board of directors, Heidi McDonald, creator-writer Mark Draco, producer Gary Prabula, retailer Mike Malv, and founders Ryan and Kendra Leibowitz. There will be a free charity raffle ticket to win prizes for all attendees. Then we have Salvage Marines series premiere at 5 o'clock, and that's star and executive producer Casper Van Dyne with cast and crew will premiere the trailer for the new series that is on Popcorn Flicks and Crackle in August, and they'll basically just be talking about their show. Next up, we have Storyboarding the Horror at 6 p.m. with storyboard and comic book artist Frank Forte. And he will be discussing doing storyboards for the silver screen. Then we have Astonishing Origin of the Deep Fried Universe and the Uncanny Lumpia Rappers. And that is for the action comedy Lumpia with a Vengeance, which is screening afterwards in a different room, the Grand 5 Marriott Marquis. This panel from 7 to 8 will feature a ton of people that are involved in the movie, and that's Patricio Ganelsa, Mark Munoz, April Absinthe, Darian Basco, Katrina Demarin, Marinen, Lawrence Arate, Edward Bayon, Gerald Pilar, Vinaya Hardy, Patrick Ballesteros, and Patrick Michael Strange. They will include a free print giveaway by Steven Segovia, and that should be a good time. Then at 8 p.m., the final panel of the day is More Science in Your Fiction with extraordinary scientists and engineers. And it's basically a bunch of scientists talking about science and fiction with Dr. Tom Darlington, Ben Frabel, Dr. Sunny Fugate, Dr. Alyssa Griffin, Chris Newhan, Dr. Lisa Ziegler, Angela Zumplos, and moderated by Karen Martin. So that is a lot of stuff in one day. These smaller rooms, they just crank through some panels. I think I saw one of the rooms had like 11 panels in one day. So
That's nuts.
it is nuts. So this one looks like, because it only seats 480, Jim Starlin is pretty popular considering he created some of the characters that people love to see on the big screen right now. And he was also really popular as a comic book artist and writer originally, and for the last 50 years, of course. So this one may be pretty popular. I don't know if it's going to require too much of a wait to get in. And then I would say that the only thing that may get close to filling this up is maybe the Salvage Marines, because they're going to be trying to promote that a lot. And Casper Van Dyne is well known for people who love Starship Troopers and some other shows that he's been in.
Yeah.
So I think that's really the only thing that's going to be any worry at all for the day.
I agree. I do think that the Olympia with a Vengeance panel will be a lot of fun, but I think people are more likely to head to the screening.
Right.
Is my
Unless they
opinion.
want that free print. So keep in mind, if you want to actually see that panel and you think that there may be a run on something being handed out for free, of course, you're going to want to make sure you get there a little early.
Yeah.
Nothing extreme, like show up a half hour, 45 minutes during the previous panel and you should be fine.
Yeah. All right, Kim, why don't you take us into the next panel room, which is room 6DE?
Yes. I wanted to note first that 1 p.m. Cosplay panel that James just talked about. It's related to Cosplay Universe, a new documentary, which is screening for any locals in San Diego on Saturday, the 16th. I want to say we just added it to our calendar. I did a search. I don't see it that it's screening as a part of the convention. Would that show up in event?
It should, but I mean, it could also be on Saturday or Sunday, and we don't have those.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah,
of course. All right, so moving on, room 60E seats 884 people. It starts Thursday at 10:15, Building Worlds with Lego. Explore, I'm just going to read these. I'm not creative. I will try to go fast though. Explore the art of world building the Lego way with writers, artists, and the builders as they co-create unique character settings and storylines in an original story world, all from scratch using the Lego World Builder platform, featuring Selena Friend, writer of My Little Pony, Kevin Burke, and Doc Wyatt, writers of Ninjago, Paul Lee, concept artist, Peter Donner, Lego designer, and Asa Tate, head of production, Lego Entertainment. Next is DC's Dark Crisis at 11:30. The epic event 30 years in the making is here. Talent behind Dark Crisis, Young Justice, The Flash, and Worlds Without Justice League, including Joshua Williamson, Daniel Sempier, Megan Fitzman, Tom King, and Jeremy Adams, offer exclusive details on what's to come. Next is the Spotlight on Jim Lee at 12:45. Pretty much Jim Lee interview. Creative artist, writer, creative officer at DC. I think that's going to be pretty big. Next is Scott Snyder's Dark Spaces and More, IDW original series at 2 p.m., 2 to 3. Desperate people, desperate situations when the walls are closing. Oh, this is okay. Fan favorite writer Scott Snyder learn about the next evolution, original comic books and graphic novels as Snyder, artist Hayden Sherman, editorial director Mark Doyle, senior editor Maggie Howell, and others discuss the new and unique projects Dark Spaces, Wildfire, True Cult, but with V's, I get it, and Crashing from IDW. I can't get into the drama, I'm sorry. If there's drama, we're gonna bypass. At 3:15 is Todd McFarlane celebrating Spawn's 30th anniversary. Megastar artist of McFarlane Toys CEO and Image Comics president Todd McFarlane celebrates 30th anniversary of Image Comics and Spawn's debut. At 4:30 is Heavy Metal, Forging the Future. Heavy Metal has been the premier home for science fiction, fantasy, and horror for 45 years. From the world's greatest illustrated magazine to comics to the legendary animated film. What's next? Some of the biggest names from Heavy Metal discuss the future of the legendary brand. No guests listed for that. 5:45, 30th anniversary of X-Men, the animated series. Larry Houston, producer, director of X-Men animated series and Captain Planet. Dan Vessenmeyer, packaged artist for Hasbro Marvel's Legends X-Men and Lego Ninjago. And Stephen Melking, writer of the X-Men and Star Wars Rebels, celebrate the 30th anniversary and discuss behind-the-scenes production of the 90s X-Men series. Joining them is Larry Houston, director of the series. 7 p.m. is Legends Lost and Remembered. Comics community suffered huge losses this year. We pay tribute to the works and lives of Neil Adams, George Perez, and Tim Sale. Legends gone too soon. On the panel will be Mark Andraco, Dan Jurgens, Tom King, Bill Sienkiewicz, Richard Starking, Scott Williams, and others to pay tribute to those celebrated artists.
Ooh, another big day. So this one is going to have a lot of big comic talent coming through with Dark Crisis, DC's big event currently. The spotlight on Jim Lee, Scott Snyder. I mean, all big names. Todd McFarlane, probably one of the biggest names in comics because of his association with not only forming Image Comics and Spawn, but also owning and buying a bunch of baseball memorabilia and owning a toy manufacturer or toy making company. He's basically everywhere, so he is very popular. This is going to be a busy room pretty much all day. If you want to get into things like Todd McFarlane, I'm going to guess that you're going to have to get there pretty early. That's at 3:15. So they do allow 15 minutes in this room for clearing between panels. But I would say that you may want to try checking out and just keeping an eye on the room. But I'm thinking maybe the room will clear out enough after Jim Lee that you can then go in for Todd McFarlane. But a lot of comic fans are fans of a lot of these people, and they may just decide to sit and watch all of these people all day. I think it will have some turnover, so just monitor it. And I think that the Jim Lee and the Scott Snyder and the Todd McFarlane all in a row is going to be a log jam of people wanting to see it, because I'm pretty sure there's going to be more than 800 people who want to see each of those people. So be aware, each one of them is going to require probably anywhere from 45 minutes to 2 hours extra ahead of time to get in to see them. And next up, we have room 6A, which seats 1,040. And we have at 10 a.m. disability representation on and off the screen. And it will explore the disability representation both on the screen and behind the camera. And it will feature Ryan O'Connell, Lauren Ridloff, Aliqua Cox, Gail Simone, Timothy Odmanson, and Josh Feldman. So it's going to have some fairly big names on this panel at 11:15. And again, this is another room now that is doing the 15-minute wait in between panels. We have Mattel and WWE Elite Squad fan panel. This will discuss the action figure champions of the San Diego Comic-Con with crowd-popping WWE action figure reveals, and the hosts Sam Roberts and Kiampa will host a star-studded panel featuring Bill McKenna and Steve Ozer, and WWE superstars Cody Rhodes and Queen Zelina. At 12:30, we have Gundam, The Witch from Mercury, which will be a special screening of Mobile Suit Gundam, The Witch from Mercury Prologue, and we'll have a first look at the U.S. at the upcoming series directed by Hiroshi Kobayashi. Panelists from Bandai include David Edmondson, Justin Cavender, AJ Velasco, and David Clark. At 1:45, we have the Crunchyroll Industry Panel. Hear about all the latest stuff coming out of Crunchyroll from Tim Liu and Lauren Moore. At 3 p.m., we have a look inside the making of the Gotham Knights video game. And this is basically the team that is making the upcoming open world RPG is going to discuss it with panelists Patrick Redding, Anne LeMay, Wilson Mew, America Young, Christopher Sean, and next up we have at 4:15, The Wheel of Time Origins. It's an animated digital short companion series to The Wheel of Time on Prime. And this will feature a special exclusive video presentation that promises to deliver some magic to attendees. Next up, we have 5:30 p.m. Conan the Barbarian 40th Anniversary with author Paul M. Salmon and acclaimed illustrator William Stout. And they will discuss the 1982 movie and share on-set experiences with Arnold and director John Milius and the designer Ron Cobb. And that doesn't mean Arnold is going to be there. They're going to talk about their experiences with them. They are not bold in the listing, so they won't be there. But for those who don't know, William Stout is actually one of the people who has been to every Comic-Con. At 6:45, we have Attack of the Show, Who Let Us In? And it is the return of the Attack of the Show with host WWE superstar Xavier Woods. And then we'll feature Gina Darling, Will Neff, Fiona Nova, and Kasim G with basically talking about Attack the Show and have some giveaways and such. At 8 p.m. will be the 25th annual San Diego Comic-Con Superhero Kung Fu Extravaganza with Rick Myers and Frank Jang and Preston Downey and Eric Jacobus and Jan Lucanis. And it is the silver anniversary of showing the funniest, most exciting, gasp-inducing action scenes of the year from all over the world. Okay, so what's going on with this room today? I think that, I don't know if there's really anything except for maybe Wheel of Time that's going to really draw in more than 1,000 people.
Yeah, that's what I think. There's some cool stuff in here. And honestly, I didn't even realize, I'm a big fan of Psych. I didn't even realize Timothy Amundsen was on a panel until you said that. So I'm glad that you read that, because clearly I did not. But yeah, I also think these panels are so different that people are not going to be sitting there. Like if you go into this room, you're going to go for your specific panel and then you're going to leave. Like the Gundam people, I don't think care about like Wheel of Time or Conan and so forth.
And if they do, it's not a significant enough number. It's going to be 5 to 10 people, not 500 to 1,000 people.
Yes.
So I would agree. And I would say, if you want to see something in here, I don't think you need to show up very early. Just show up early enough to get through when they do the changeover, maybe a few minutes before the previous panel ends. If you're really worried, 10, 20 minutes, maybe.
Yeah.
But I don't think you really need to worry about this room.
Yeah.
Except for maybe Wheel of Time.
I agree.
And then next up, Kim is handling room 6 BCF.
Indeed. So that seats 2,160 people and starts at 10:30 a.m. on, where are we? Thursday, with dispatches from Middle Earth. The Rings of Power are coming. Lord of the Rings is expanding with new TV, film, and game projects. The OneRing.net, which is the largest online Tolkien community, discovers all the new details from Rohan, Numenor, and Gollum's Cave. From the 20th anniversary celebration of Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings series to the hugely budgeted Rings of Power. See latest images, news, rumors, and artwork about Middle Earth. Panelists include Kelly Rice, co-author of Middle Earth from Script to Screen, Clifford Broadway, producer of Ringers, Nancy Steinman, Runwing.net staff writer and artist, Justin Sewell, producer at the Runwing.net, and Kathy Udovich, event coordinator for Torn. At 11:45, we've got Miraculous Ladybug and Zag Entertainment animation slate, and I can now recite all the lyrics to Miraculous since the last time we had a Miraculous panel, where it's big in our house. Jeremy Zag, director and CEO, and the talent behind Miraculous Ladybug discussed the world building of the Miraculous franchise and expanding Zag slate. At 1 p.m. is Nickelodeon's 1 to 2 is Nickelodeon's Rugrats. The babies are back. Hold on to your diapers. Throw Cynthia's workout on the stereo and halt for Reptar. Your favorite babies are back and better than ever. Voice talent from the Paramount Plus original series Rugrats. E.G. Daily, Cheryl Chase, And Charlotte Chung, along with executive producer Eric Casmero, bust out the playpen to give fans an exclusive look and behind-the-scenes art and sneak peeks of content, perform a live table read, that's cool, and provide answers to popular questions. Moderated by Jim Viscardi, executive editor at comicbook.com. At 2:15 is Marvel's Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur. The cast and creative team of Disney Channel's highly anticipated series, as I just said, and panels will include Diamond White, Libe Bearer, Fred Taskikore, forgive me if I'm pronouncing anyone's name incorrectly, Steve Loader, executive producer Steve Loader, supervising producers Rodney Clouden, Pilar Flynn, and moderated by Janine Rubenstein, editor for People. And I believe the announcement, when this was announced for Comic-Con by Disney, this was the first look at their logo, which was a big deal. I could be wrong. At 3:30 is SpongeBob SquarePants. As usual, dive into SpongeBob universe. It's not a Comic-Con without a SpongeBob panel. Legendary voice talent for including Tom Kenny, Bill Fagerbakke, Patrick, Jill Talley, Kate Higgins, and Carlos Alascre. And executive producers from the series take fans on an undersea adventure to explore these iconic shows and characters and reveal what to expect next from SpongeBob and the denizens of Bikini Bottom, moderated by Patrick Gomez, editor-in-chief of Entertainment Weekly. 4:45 is Dragon Prince, Mysteries of Avaros Unveiled. Co-creators of the show, Aaron Ehas and Justin Richmond, along with executive producer Vlad Spangberg, lead writer Devin Gill, and voice actors Jack DeSena and Raquel Belmonte pull back the veil on the next phase of the Dragon Prince saga, which is coming this fall to Netflix. 6 p.m. is Koala Man, which is the creators from the creators of Rick and Morty and Pokemon Detective Pikachu. Koala Man makes its debut at Comic-Con with creator, executive producer, and the koala himself, Michael Cusick, and executive producers Justin Rowland, Dan Hernandez, and Benji Sammet. Learn what the suburban Aussie superhero is all about as the team discusses the Hulu series premiere, breaking news, and more. 7:15 to 8:15 is Solar Opposites. Co-creators and executive producers Justin Rowland, Mike Mahan, and Josh Bicel discuss the newly released season 3 on Hulu. I'll also be accompanied by cast members Thomas Middleditch from what's the HBO series?
Oh my God. I know. Oh my God. Why am I blanking?
It'll come to us. Sean Gambroni and Mary Mack discussion
Silicon
is
Valley.
sure to be. Thank you. Discussion is sure to be otherworldly. At 8:30, this one goes late, 8:30 to 9:30, building community through gaming icon and social media superstar Carl Jacobs shares his top tips and tricks for fostering an online community, how he's diversified his career, and reveals secrets about his upcoming comic book series in a special live one-on-one, moderated to be announced.
So there's some big stuff in this room.
There is, but 2,000 or so people, that it holds a decent amount.
Right. So the
Yeah.
biggest thing, just by history, is SpongeBob.
Yeah, that's what I would say as well, SpongeBob.
So that's the one you need to plan around if that's not the one you want to go to. So if you want to see Marvel's Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur, I think that one's going to be very popular. But a lot of the SpongeBob crowd is going to try and be there. So you may need to get in like before Rugrats, because Rugrats will be fairly popular as well.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So basically, because SpongeBob is the big thing of the day, plan around that. Get in there early if you want to see something before it. If you want to see something after it, the room should basically clear out after it. I wouldn't worry about it either of the panels at 3 of panels after it. I wouldn't worry about any of those 4 panels.
So James, if you wanted to go to SpongeBob, when would you get in? Would you get in like right as Rugrats was starting? Would you get in before that?
To see SpongeBob?
Yeah.
I would get in during Miraculous before
Yeah.
Rugrats.
I think so too. Well, and honestly, odds are if you like SpongeBob, I mean, Rugrats is probably not going to be.
And you get to see the first look at the Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur. So, I mean,
Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah, it's a good
That's,
lineup
and
there.
that's mention that now. That's one of the great things about Comic-Con is the sit-through panel.
Yeah.
There's panels that you're just going to have to sit through to see what you want, and it may be something cool. So you might as well pay attention and see what's going on.
Yeah.
And Jennifer in the chat mentions that, that Dragon Prince was in 25 ABC the last time we had a convention. And so this is a nice upgrade for them. And wasn't Miraculous in a tiny room too? And it's popular with grownups.
Yes.
Um,
both of those are pretty popular. We get a lot of questions about Dragon
great.
Prince. I do think Dragon Prince will be popular. I don't know that it will be like 2000 popular. And again, like James said, I think a lot of the people who are in there for SpongeBob will leave. So if I wanted to go to Dragon Prince, I mean, I would probably get there like a little bit before SpongeBob started just to be safe, but I don't think you'll have too much.
Yeah, sometime either right when SpongeBob starts or sometime during SpongeBob, maybe not really close to the end of SpongeBob, but sometime during SpongeBob.
Yeah.
And you're probably, I would say pretty much guaranteed to get in because I think SpongeBob will clear out.
Yeah.
So,
all right.
I did want to mention that I saw something on Twitter that the Miraculous panel has actually been canceled, but it is not canceled on the schedule. And I think it's from like maybe one of the actresses who does a voice in there.
Oh, yeah. Okay, yes. So one of the actresses on Miraculous Ladybug said, we tried to make it work this year, but it's just not going to happen. Sorry, guys, which was interesting because it was like, well, this panel was already announced. Now, maybe she just meant like she will not be there because the panel description only says Jeremy Zag and the talent behind. So it could be that, or maybe this panel isn't happening. I don't know.
Yeah, we won't know until they actually. Yeah, until list is canceled or it just goes on and it just doesn't have some of the people that they were trying to bring.
Yeah. All right.
Next.
We have Indigo Ballroom, which somebody asked me earlier where this was. So for anybody who doesn't know, this is not in the convention center. This is actually next door at the Hilton Bayfront. But it's a really cool space and it holds a little more than 2,600 or so. So the first panel of the day is at 11 a.m. with the 8th Musical Anatomy of a Superhero Film and TV Composer panel. And they do this every year. And it's moderated again by Michael Giacchino. I'm going to mispronounce Giacchino. I'm going to mispronounce every name today, so I apologize. But it includes a whole bunch of awesome composers for things like Black Panther, Wakanda Forever, Batgirl, Loki, Thor, Love and Thunder, Shazam, Fury of the Gods, She-Hulk, Attorney at Law. So if you just want to hear some cool composers come and talk about what it's like to make the music for your favorite pop culture things, like
I think it's hilarious that the things that they list that these composers did are like, they're popular, but they're also like maybe not the things that people may know them most for.
This is true, yeah. Like Ludwig Göransson. I mean, I do feel like
he was already famous, but he got really famous for Mandalorian.
Yes, he got famous for Mandalorian. I know him from Community days.
Community and New Girl.
Yep.
Natalie Holt just did the Obi-Wan series, and that's not even mentioned. Christoph Beck did Frozen, and that's not even mentioned.
Yeah.
So it's like, what are they doing?
Yeah.
Anyway, they do what they want.
Yes. Well, good times. But it's always a really fun panel. I actually went to this in 2019, and I really enjoyed it. And then at 12:15 is Moriarty, the Devil's Game, an Audible original, which is Audible talking about their new Sherlock Holmes universe. But it has not one, but 2 hobbits with Dominic Monaghan and Billy Boyd as they reunite for this Audible story alongside Phil Lamar and Lindsay Whistler for a dynamic conversation about the thrilling task of bringing these known characters to life for audiences. I think that sounds really fun, and I was big into Lord of the Rings when the movies came out, and I loved Dom and Billy, so I think that would be a really fun panel to go to. At 1:30 is Abbott Elementary Class in Session, which, don't get me wrong, I'm very, very excited that Abbott has a presence, but here's the caveat. It is virtual. It's virtual live, which basically means is live the way that we are live right now, but they will not physically be there. However, the people who will be on Zoom or whatever they use is Tyler James Williams, Janelle James, Chris Perfetti, Lisa Ann Walter, William Stanford Davis, and Cheryl Lee Ralph. But again, they will not physically be at the convention. At 2:45 is a glimpse into the world of Peacock original supernatural young adult drama series Vampire Academy, which if you looked at the schedule only when it first dropped, you would not have seen this panel, but it got added last night, so that's exciting. But this Peacock series, we will have executive producer Julie Pleck, who's obviously known for like the Vampire Diaries and the originals, alongside Marguerite McIntyre, with series regulars Sissy Stringer, Daniela Neves, Kieran Moore, and Andre Day Kim to discuss the series. Yeah. And then at 4 is Artemis, Dawn of a New Space Age, Holly Writings, which will have the NASA flight director, Holly Writings, discussing NASA's return to the moon with the launch debut of the Artemis program Space Launch System rocket later this summer. She will be joined by a NASA astronaut who will discuss future Artemis missions to the moon, and Derek Wang, who is NASA's Space Technology Mission Directorate, to discuss some exciting partnerships. So if you like space, that's cool. And then at 5:15 is Nix, where you can get a preview of the new psychological horror movie from the director of Sharknado, featuring actor Dee Wallace, Anthony C. Ferrante, who's the co-writer and director, James Zimbardi, Skylar Caleb, Woodrow Wilson Hancock III, which is an awesome name, Angie Theodora Dick, and Gary Rubens. And the film is inspired by Germanic folklore, and it follows a tragedy in a mysterious lake that haunts the shattered Hoyle family as they contend with a frightening entity that has once again revealed itself. So if you like horror and you're looking for something to do on Thursday night, that's your option. So I don't think any of these are going to be hard to get into. I think Abbott might have been had it been in person.
Right.
But since it's virtual, I think honestly, all of these, if you just line up, if you want to go to any of these, especially like the earlier ones, like the Audible one with the Hobbits or Vampire Academy, I would show up like 30 minutes early, maybe an hour.
Yeah, because I mean, if someone wants to make it a Lord of the Rings type weekend, you're going to want to go to this panel because it's got hobbits on it.
And they're just fun people. Like if
Yes.
you have never heard them live, like they are so fun. That's actually one of the panels that I truly wish I could go, but there's something else I want to go to more. So
Always conflicts. That's content.
always
There's
conflicts. Yeah,
conflicts.
that's how this convention works. But yeah, I don't think any of those are going to be real hard to get into. So
All right. And then next up is the other big TV room, Ballroom 20.
and it's me again.
Wonder, how'd that happen?
All right, so
We
Ballroom
planned
20.
this well.
Ballroom 20 holds around 4,800, and they are kicking off the day at 10:45 a.m. with basically the Rookie universe, with the Rookie and the Rookie Feds, and it will have Nathan Fillion and Niecy Nash Betts to discuss those two shows. Moderated by TV Guide Magazine's Damian Holbrook. At 12 is the Ship It Show live with Tara Strong and Greg Sipes. And if they have a podcast called The Ship It Show, and basically they'll be doing that live. And then at 1 to 2 is Ghosts, the CBS series based on the BBC series. And they're bringing a whole bunch of cast, including Rose McIver, Utkarsh Ambudkar, Brandon Scott Jones, Richie Moriarty, Danielle Pinnock, Asher Grodman, Roman Zaragoza, Sheila Carrasco, Rebecca Wazaki, and Devin Chandler Long, along with producers Joe Port and Joe Wiseman for a spirited panel conversation and a look at never before seen footage. This will be their first time at Comic-Con, so that should be a lot of fun. And then at 2:15 is National Treasure: Edge of History, which is the upcoming Disney Plus original series. based on the film franchise that I'm sure all of you know of. The panel will have series regulars Lizette Oliveira, Jake Austin Walker, Antonio Cipriano, Jordan Rodriguez, Zuri Reed, and Lyndon Smith, as well as executive producers to give you a look inside the show. And then at 3:30 is Inside Severance with executive producer and director Ben Stiller, creator and executive producer Dan Erickson, and cast members Adam Scott, Britt Lower, Zach Cherry, Trammell Tillman, Dickon Leichman, and Jen Tulloch as they sit down with Patton Oswald to share to look back basically at the first season of the show. And then at 4:45 is Beavis and Butthead Do Comic-Con, where creator Mike Judge joins a celebrity moderator who they don't mention as they have a lively conversation about Beavis, Butthead, and everything in between. They'll discuss the upcoming Beavis and Butthead Paramount Plus original series. And actually, let me just make sure that the Paramount release this morning did not say who that special guest was. It does not. Okay. Hey, I mean, we'll get to it here when we talk about Teen Wolf, but it did list some of the Teen Wolf panelists that I noted were not on CCI's list. But yeah, so this is going to be a very busy day. And if you are into TV, there are some very good things over here. Honestly,
This one's going to require some lining up.
it is, but I don't know. I go back and forth on Severance. Like, I really care. And I think the people who care really care, but I'm like, I just feel like it's kind of a cult show. So I don't know. Either that one's going to be like packed to the gills, or it's going to be like, well, it's kind of full, but you could probably still walk it. It's going to be one or the other, nothing in between.
So
I didn't realize Ben Stiller was involved with that show, so that's kind of a draw there too.
He directed 6 of the 9 episodes. Thank you very
So
much.
do you think maybe this is going to be the kind of day where the room has a pretty big line for all the people that are like, I have to see this thing that's there that day, and we'll fill the room up like 3/4 of the way at minimum to start.
Yes.
And then we'll just kind of ebb and flow throughout the day from full to kind of full.
Yes, I absolutely think that, because I think there are people who absolutely love Ghosts who are going to want to see Ghosts. So they're going to get there early for that. I think there are people who absolutely love Tara Strong who are going to show up early for Tara Strong. The National Treasure show, people seem really excited about that. And again,
Is Nicolas Cage involved with that at all?
I don't think so, but I do not know.
The likelihood of a cameo appearance at the convention.
If Nicolas Cage was going to be on that panel, then yes, it would require a much longer lineup. But yeah, I think James is right. I think this panel room is going to stay pretty full most of the day. I just don't know how long you're going to have to line up for Severance.
It's so basically, if you are worried about this room that day, first off, obviously wait and see what it looks like after the everything line is let in usually around 7 a.m. ish, and kind of get a judge from people saying where the Ballroom 20 line is going. And if it's like out the marina and down the stairs and heading away, I mean, obviously the room's going to be packed, but will it clear out by the time, Ghosts is done?
Yeah.
So it's going to be a judgment call on if there's something you really want to do in the morning but you still want to get to Severance. It's going to be a judgment call to go do that other thing and then come in for Severance and hope you get in. And I think that there's a certain audience, obviously, for Nathan Fillion. He has a built-in audience with the Browncoats.
He does.
They will nearly fill Ballroom 20 with his fans because he has done so many things. So if you're worried about it, I would say get in there after the Nathan Fillion panel clears out. Because there will be, again, a certain segment of that audience that will leave because that's the only thing they want to see is Nathan Fillion.
Yeah.
So if you're really worried about Ghosts or Severance, then definitely get there before or during the Tara Strong show and Tara Strong and Greg Stripes panel. So be there by noon, I would say.
And honestly, honestly, like if you like TV, this is a really good day, like the whole day. Sitting, as we just discussed, sit through panels. Yes, I mean, there are some of these that I would not normally go to on my own, but they all look like fun, at least. So, there's
a
good people in
chance.
all of them, yeah.
Just pay attention to updates on Twitter, and you may just be able to walk in if you're like, oh, you know what, I'm going to go check it out and see if it's there. And then Severance or Ghosts or whatever else you may want to see that day, you may be able to go like, well, I just see on Twitter that there's still room. I'm going to head on over there and get into the panel now and just sit in the back and be able to watch a panel. I mean, that happens. It happens in Hall H. So keep an eye. I mean, it's absolutely possible. So just keep an eye on it. And I think if it's not like your must-see thing, that's probably the way to play it this year for Ballroom 20 on this day, at least.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, just watch Twitter. Again, like you said, I mean, I think the room's going to be pretty full all day, but I do think there will be turnover. So just watch Twitter. And if you're worried, like you said, I would show up fairly early, at least for Ghosts and Severance, because I think those are going to be the big two of the day.
Right. After Nathan Fillion clears out.
Yes.
Honestly, don't line up super early knowing that Nathan Fillion crowd will take some of it away and come in and out. So you don't necessarily have to get there at 3:00 in the morning.
That's very true. Someone in the chat actually asked, like, if they wanted to do something in the morning, could they line up an hour early for Ghosts? I mean, maybe. So since Nathan Fillion is 10:45 to 11:45, I would basically be there at like when it's clearing out at 11:45 to make sure you get it into that room.
Yeah, because what people will do is it's that exponential thing where as every minute you get closer to the panel, more people will show up. So if one person is showing up every few seconds, an hour before, 10 people are showing up every second, a half hour before. So you just got to beat those 10 people, so just be there a little earlier and you'll be fine. So now we're up into the big room, Hall H, seats 6,500. And we're starting the day with Dungeons and Dragons Honor Among Thieves at noon. And that is from Paramount Pictures. And there is really no information except for that they're going to have some footage and they're going to have cast and filmmakers. At 1:30 is Teen Wolf the Movie from series creator and showrunner Jeff Davis. And it will have, according to Paramount Plus announced today, will have Tyler Hoechlin? Hecklin?
Yeah.
Tyler Posey and surprise guests. And so they'll be talking about the new movie coming out based on the series. At 3 p.m., we have Masters of the Universe, which is Kevin Smith interviewing some of the greats from Masters of the Universe's history, including talent and creators from each era, from toys, film, TV, publishing, all that kind of stuff. Basically, if you love Masters of the Universe, this is the panel for you. And then at 4:30, we have Shatner on Shatner, because who else is better to talk about William Shatner than William Shatner himself? Moderated by Kevin Smith, and they will be discussing the new documentary coming out about, of all things, William Shatner.
Shatner on Shatner.
It will also include Legion M executives Jeff Aniston and David Baxter and producer Carrie Dignan-Roy. So if you want to see Shatner, now's your chance, because he is going to be around the con all day, but this is one of the only things you can do that will not cost you any money except for your Comic-Con badge. So is any of this going to fill the hall? I don't think so.
I don't think so either, honestly. I mean, yeah, I think all day long you can probably walk in.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, the only thing, Teen Wolf used to fill Ballroom 20 and pack it, right?
Yeah, but I mean, first of all, it's a very big leap from Ballroom 20 to Hall H. Second of all, unless that surprise guest is Dylan O'Brien, and they announced that beforehand, I do not think most people are super pumped about the movie.
So if you see Dylan O'Brien announced and you have to attend that panel, then that's your cue to run and get in line early.
Yes, as one of the former Teen Wolf fans, that is my prediction.
So basically, if you want to go to something and you want in the room, show up. So it does take a little while to do the line for Hall H, because it's got the tents and you got to go through shoots. They let people in a certain place. They don't just let people right in the door. So give yourself some time to handle the line process.
Yeah.
So any Hall H panel that you think is walk-in, show up 15 to 20 minutes before just to handle the logistics of getting into the room, and then add whatever time you think may be needed to, do anything else, like, if there's even a short wait or whatever it may be. So, but yeah, just go and enjoy whatever panel you want to enjoy, because I think you're going to be able to see anything you want in this room.
Yeah, which is nice. We like Thursdays like this for sure.
Yes. So what we're going to do now is we're going to talk about maybe a panel or 2 or 10 that we call our dark horse picks, which are panels from smaller rooms that we feel are worth mentioning, or just something that we like, a fandom or other thing that we enjoy. And I am supposed to start, but I am going to because she already has hers picked, I'm going to let Carrie start, unless she doesn't want to, and then it'll be Kim.
No, that's fine. So my dark horse pick is Our Flag Means Death, Ship on Ships, at 4 p.m. at the Marriott Marquis Grand number rooms 10 and 11. And basically it's just a fan panel about Our Flag Means Death, which I wish was going to the convention center this year, but it's not, because it doesn't start filming until October, so that didn't make sense. Yeah. That is what I had to say. And real quick, before we move on to the others, I wanted to answer one question. Karen asked, how do you know if the panel is virtual? That Abbott Elementary panel, if you read the description, it said this is virtual. I mean, that's basically how you know.
Yeah, so far, no other panels have been completely virtual. There have been panels that have mentioned certain people will be appearing via like a pre-recorded message or live virtual. So the panel description will have it.
Yeah. So basically, just if you were interested in a panel, make sure you read the full description. Okay. All right. Kim, do you want to talk about yours? Your dark horse pick?
Yeah, so I picked Raising Fan Kids, Teaching Your Young Geeks to Be Self-Confident and Successful, which is Thursday at 11 a.m. in the library, Helen Price Reading Room. And those are non-badge. Is that correct?
I think so. That
Those
sounds right.
educator
To me.
conferences?
Yes, I think so.
We'll know more. We'll know more in a few days when it's officially announced by the library, but I don't think the library panels require badges, if I'm correct. I may not be, but it's parents and teachers talking about techniques to help kids grow up nerdy without any negative connotation, and it appeals to me as a parent. So I thought that was great to see on there. I also wanted to mention, where did it go to? Standby. The Harry Potter fandom panel Thursday at 7:30 p.m. in 29 CD with a whole bunch of people from a wide range of the Harry Potter fandom, different sites, Quidditch, and fan groups. And while I was looking for that, I came across Dinotopia Reborn Thursday and Room 10 at 7:30 p.m. I did not even know there was a Dinotopia panel. I love those books as a kid. I have them in the other room. And so I've learned that it's on Crackle Plus. So look at that.
That's cool.
Okay, so the one I'm picking for a dark horse is one I think is just going to be fun to be in the room for. And it also features some really good comic talent, and that is Happy Hour with Comic Book Couples. And that's spend time with Inkpot Award recipients Amanda Connor, Brian Polito, Jeff Smith, Jimmy Palmiotti, Terry Moore, and Billy Tucci, as they are joined by Abstract Studios, Robin Moore, Cartoon Books, Vijaya Iyer, Coffin Comics Francisca Polito, and Crusade Comics Deborah Tucci for an entertaining and enlightening panel on what life is like being married to a comics creator and running a successful publishing company through both mainstream and crowdfunding avenues. And I think it's just cool that there's basically, I think, 4 or 5 couples, I have to count the people, but all involved in comics on either the creation side, which is Amanda Connor and Jimmy Palmiotti are both creators and behind the scenes, like as editors and publishers and such. So through the gamut of making and creating and doing all this stuff with comics, these people will be talking about being married while doing that. So I think that's just kind of cool, little different kind of a thing than you normally see at the convention. But some other ones I wanted to mention, and you can just search these things by name and in Eventney, even though it's, again, we won't talk about Eventney, but there is a search feature that you can just search a name and it will actually find that thing. But Z2 Comics Major Laser Panel looks like it's going to have some cool people on it. You can see an advanced screening of Harley Quinn, which we knew about, is late at night in a small room, so be prepared. That one may fill up even though it's late at night. Scotty Young, very popular artist who does the Marvel pins every year, which we're hoping, he does again this year, of course, to keep it going. He has his own panel. And then the early SDCC El Cortez Hotel years is a 2:00 panel. I'm not sure what room it's in, but it's basically people who were at or helped run Comic-Con back in the first few years, talking about what it was like at the very first hotel venue, big venue that they did where it grew out of a basement, for the first time, essentially. And then there's comic majors, Tom Taylor and Tom King have their own conversation. There's a Godzilla panel. And this one I thought was interesting, the history of the Marvel Universe in 5 objects, which is basically this guy looked through and basically found 5 things in like the 500,000 pages of Marvel comics that appear the most, and discusses what it means for, like, it's basically a kind of like an intellectual discussion about why these particular items keep showing up. So I thought that was interesting as well. And that was it.
That is cool.
So we had some questions, or at least one question that we wanted to get to, which is about the Dungeons and Dragons panel. Kim M asked, what if Mr. Page and Mr. Pine show up for the Dungeons and Dragons panel? Then what do you think the line will be like? Well, if they announce it in advance, plan ahead. There will be a line. It may be a little bit more crowded than we said. If they don't announce it in advance, guess what? There's not going to be a line because no one knows they're going to be there. Yep. So this is exactly what happened with Interstellar. The Hall H did not even fill up at all for Interstellar, with Christopher Nolan, showing up.
Christopher Nolan, Matthew McConaughey,
and the room didn't fill, and that's because they did not announce it in advance. So
that is why you announce early.
That's why you announce in advance. If anyone is listening who is in PR or marketing for someone who is not announcing something, guess what? If you announce it, people will show up.
That's right. Yeah. You might think that like your surprise is cool, but if you announce nothing, like people are going to pick something else to do. So yeah, announce.
But yeah, that Harley thing, a lot of people will want to watch that. And I think the room only seats like 400 or 500 people, maybe. So even though it's at 10 o'clock at night, I think it's going to be pretty popular. So I would think, get there a little early. Go eat, come back, get in line. All right, so we're going to start in on Friday, correct?
Yes.
And we're going to kick it off again with room 7AB, which again holds 480. And I think this is one of the rooms with a massive amounts of panels. So I'm going to try and get through this as fast as I can. That's a lot of data, a lot of text here. Starting off at 10 a.m. with Writing in Someone Else's Universe. Authors Adam Christopher, Soya Davies, Alexandra Monier, Beth Revis, and Douglas Walk talk about writing for Marvel and DC and Star Wars and Stranger Things and other stuff like that. Then at 11 a.m. is Rob Liefeld, Robservations Live. And if you don't know who Rob Liefeld is, well, then you probably don't really care. But he's the co-creator of many things like Deadpool, Cable, those kind of things. He's a Marvel artist, image artist, and he is, I think the appropriate term is bombastic and larger than life. So if you know who Rob is and you want to see him, there's your chance. Star Wars Fandom, the early days at noon. Craig Miller, Lucasfilm's original director of fan relations, gives a slideshow about the early days of the fandom. And if you've been to this before, I think he's done it a few times at different conventions, then it's probably similar or the same panel. So if you haven't been to it before, it has a lot of cool stuff, and being able to see like early pictures of Star Wars at Comic-Con in the 70s and things like that. So it's pretty cool. Then it's basically Star Wars, almost all Star Wars for the rest of the day here in this room. Lucasfilm Publishing, Stories from a Galaxy Far, Far Away, featuring Kristen Baver, Cecil Castellucci, Adam Christopher, Claudia Gray, George Mann, Beth Revis, Kevin Scott, Kirsten White, moderated by Lucasfilm's Michael Siglain. It basically is all about the books of Star Wars. Then Hasbro Star Wars, with people from Hasbro Star Wars marketing and design teams, talking about all the stuff coming up in the lines, Vintage and Black Series and whatnot. Then The Force of Star Wars Legion, which is Atomic Mass Games, celebrating 4 years of Star Wars Legion, the miniature game, with Simone Elliott, Will Schick, Dallas Kemp, Sherry Anisi, moderated by Justin Bolger. Then the non-Star Wars but Star-related panel with NASA and the Wonders of the Webb Telescope, with Nicole Colon, Michelle Thaler, and moderated by Karen Fox, and it's all about the Webb Telescope. It's a bunch of NASA people, which is cool. Then we have Star Wars Trading Card Collecting with David Neuheisel, Lee Kos, Sean Mullen, and Tom Resendez, talking about collecting Star Wars trading cards from vintage all the way up to current. Then we have 501st Legion, Star Wars Villainous Costuming at 6, which is Legion members Shane Hawley, Lindsay Sepak, Dean Amstutz, Kevin Weir, Don Bright, David Anchetta, and Todd Mullen from the Imperial Sands and Southern California Garrisons, talking about basically making costumes for Star Wars and being screen accurate and all that kind of cool stuff. Then we have Law of the Star Wars Underworld at 7 p.m. And this is with Circuit Judge John Owens, Judge Carol Najera, Stephen Tollefield, Christine Peak, Gabby Martin, and Bethany Bengford. And they venture into what the legal issues are about bounty hunting and the shadowy operations of groups like the Hutts, Pikes, and Crimson Dawn. That sounds like a pretty fun panel discussing, I mean, everything they do is illegal. So, I mean, it's not like it's going to be a big surprise, right? Then we have a Star Wars Trivia Game panel at 8 p.m. And that is the members of the San Diego Star Wars Society have hosted Star Wars Trivia at Comic-Con, and you can come, and every kid 5 to 11 will win a prize. And there will be multiple adult rounds as well for 12 and up. And the panel hosts are Brendan Prout, Linda Crispian, Leia Hornado, Felicia Nikaza, Carlos Munoz, and Carlos Mercado. And then finally, at 9 p.m., we have Star Wars Samurai Universe with Christopher Canoli, Dude Vader, and hosts Nathan Seekerman, Beth Akamoto, Brendan Prout, and David Hernandez and Leah Panos as they discuss the interconnection and influence of samurai movies and such on Star Wars. And that is it for the day. So if you are a Star Wars fan from all the different aspects of Star Wars, this is your room to basically camp in for the day. I think that basically if you want the Star Wars stuff, show up near the end of Rob Liefeld's panel, because the room will clear out, because all of the comic fans who want to see Liefeld will all leave or mostly leave, and the rooms will be available for you to go for your Star Wars stuff. I don't know if any of them will fill up, being that the room only seats 500 though. If you're worried, get there 20 to 45 minutes early, I would say. Basically, it's all Star Wars stuff. So, I mean, if you like one Star Wars thing, I think you can handle sitting through another Star Wars thing panel.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. Yeah.
And then next up, we have
Room 60, yeah, which is me. We start things off at 10 to 11 with the Dan Slott panel of comic book accountability, or why did you do that to my favorite comic character? And basically Dan Slott, it's his spotlight panel. And if you can just ask him whatever you want. And at 11:15 is the spotlight on Scott Snyder. And he will be in conversation with comics editor Will Dennis to talk about all of his work. At 12:30 is Gotham, in which panelists, which includes Ram V, Sean Gordon Murphy, Tinny Howard, and Jock, will take a look at Gotham's anti-heroes. At 1:45 is DC's Jim Lee and Friends, in which DC publisher and Chief Creative Officer Jim Lee moderates this Can't Miss panel featuring some of his comic book colleagues to talk with them about some of the top secret comic books coming from DC. At 3 p.m. is the History of Cosplay in 45 minutes with Andrew Liptick, journalist, historian, and member of the legendary fan-based Star Wars organization, the 501st Legion. Andrew Liptick takes attendees on a journey through the ages as he shares colorful highlights from the complex history of cosplay, fandom, fashion, and the remarkable community that brings these costumes to life. At 5:30
is actor Wesley Snipes, there to talk about his upcoming comic book, The Exiled. He will be joined by his co-creators, Adam Lawson and Keith Aram, to talk about that. At 6:45 is The Psychologists Are In live, which does not look to have a description.
The description is description. That's the word description is the description.
All right. Well, you can psychoanalyze that. At 8 p.m. is what's new at the Nacelle Company. And Nacelle is the company that's brought you like the toys that made us, the movies that made us, Behind the Attraction, a whole bunch of other stuff. They also like actually do toys, I think, as well. But they will be there to talk about their upcoming project, Icons Unearthed, which is about behind the scenes of Star Wars like never seen before. They'll also reveal a sneak peek at new business ventures and developing toys for the first time, RoboForce, Power Lords, Sectars, and more fan favorite toys from the past are joining the Nacelle universe with all new figures and series, featuring founder Brian Volk-Weiss, VP of Content Strategy Richard Merrick, producer Alyssa Mychek, and Chief Creative Officer Designer David Vonner. At 9:15 is the annual Dr. Horrible Sing-Along Blog and Karaoke Party, basically where they show the short film and you can sing. And that wraps it up for 6DE. So let's talk room flow. I think some of the DC stuff will for sure be popular. I think that DC's Jim Lee and Friends one will be popular. I think the Scott Snyder one will probably be pretty popular. And I think that Wesley Snipes panel is for sure going to be the biggest panel of the day in there. And I think Nacelle is going to be popular.
Yeah. So do we think that there's going to be lots of good turnover so that you don't have to line up all day?
I think so. Yes. I think the DC people are going to go in for the DC stuff, but then I think they're going to leave. I think the Wesley Snipes people probably will not stay for Nacelle. So if you wanted to see, to me, I think the one you need to worry about is probably the Wesley Snipes panel. So if I wanted to see Wesley Snipes, I would probably show up like near the start of Jim Lee and Friends.
Yeah, at the very least during it.
Yeah. I think that's the one to be concerned about because again, this room only holds. What holds 84? I mean, that's not terrible, but still, it's Wesley Snipes at Comic-Con. Like, people care. Yeah. People definitely care.
Yes. If they see him, they'll want to go just to be like, we haven't seen Wesley at a con for a while, so.
Oh my God, how do I not know this? The Psychologists Are In is a psych podcast hosted by Maggie Lawson and Tim Amundsen. I knew that they did a podcast. I was not thinking at all that that's what that is. Okay, well, if you are a psych fan, which I am, even though you wouldn't know it right this second, I guess that explains why Tim Amundsen is on another panel, because they will, I guess, be doing their podcast live.
There you go. It'd be nice to have that in the description, right?
Thank you, chat. Wow. I've been a little busy is what I'm going to blame it on.
So that was What the Bugs who let us know that. So now that changes the...
It does. It for sure does. Yeah, because the psychos will definitely show up for that. Assuming they know what's happening, because I clearly didn't. Yeah. Okay, so...
Do we think, though, that if they show up during Wesley Snipes that the room should clear out enough because the Wesley Snipes fans will clear out for the psych fans? Or do we think there's more crossover?
I don't think there's a lot of crossover, but if I wanted to make it in for psych, honestly, I would probably show up before Wesley Snipes panel started. Like, I would not show up like while he's in there. I would show up like in the history of cosplay, which is the panel before, and that way you may not get into the room, but the Wesley Snipes people will all get in, then they'll all leave, and then you'll for sure get into the room. That is what I would do. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
So yeah, those 3 comic panels or 4 comic panels to start the day, those will probably get close to full, if not full, with some of those guys, with Scott Snyder, Jim Lee, and Dan Slott and all that. So be aware that those will need maybe a little bit of a wait to get into. And they may not also have a massive amount of turnover if the comic fans want to sit through, multiple comic panels in a row without having to go anywhere else. So just be aware, if you want to see a specific comic panel, you may want to show up a little earlier than you think, half an hour, 45 minutes. check it out, or keep an eye and see if there's anything on the tweets to check out. So let's go to room 6A, which seats 1,040 and kicks off the morning a little later, which means they may add something, but because they do that randomly. But it is kicking off right now at 11:45 a.m. with spotlight on Frank Miller, who is the legendary artist and writer responsible for things like Batman: The Dark Knight, Year One, Sin City, 300, and he's launching his own independent publishing company called Frank Miller Presents, and he will be talking about it and doing interviews and doing interview and Q&A session. Frank Miller is huge, so this will be a big one. At 1 p.m., we have The Proud Family, Louder and Prouder. And that's creator and executive producer Bruce W. Smith with executive producer Ralph Farquhar, and series stars Kyla Pratt and Alyssa Reyes with more to be announced. We'll discuss the revival of the animated series The Proud Family and share behind-the-scenes look at the first season. At 2:15 is Introducing Transformers Earth Spark, the new Paramount Plus original series. Will feature voice talent Danny Pudi, Kat Kavari, and Zeno Robinson, as well as co-executive producers Dale Malinowski and Ant Ward. At 3:30, we have Avatar: Braving the Elements Live, which is the official companion podcast co-produced by Nickelodeon and iHeartRadio. And it's back with season 2 and features Janet Varney and Dante Bosco, taking you behind the scenes of how Avatar was brought to life. At 4:45, we have Shudder's Queer for Fear, which is the original documentary series premiering this fall on Shudder and AMC Plus. And it's the executive producers and key interviewees from the 4-part series will be there to discuss the history of queer representation in the thriller horror genre of television and film. And then we have at 6 p.m., X-Play premieres God of Work. Gerard, the completionist Khalil, and the Black Hokage join the X-Play team for the world premiere of the new comedy YouTube series God of Work. And you can learn about how that gets made and exciting news about the franchise's future. And then at 7:15, it wraps up with the Princess Mononoke 25th anniversary screening with special guest Damir Krog, where we'll be there to have some exclusive announcements and more. And it is hosted by Hot Topic. And that is it for the day. So, room flow. The biggest panel of the day is by far, I think, going to be Frank Miller at the beginning of the day, because he is a comic legend. So if you want in for Frank Miller, you're probably gonna have to line up for a while. So just get there early first thing in the morning and do the lineup and get in. And then I think it will turn over enough from that point that you probably won't have to do too much work to get into the panel you want. So
I will say that Avatar Braving the Elements panel,
Yeah.
I mean, Avatar, I feel like is so beloved in the fact that, that podcast has 2 of the voice actors in it.
Right.
I feel like that one has a very high potential of also being full.
Yes. So for most of these, show up a few minutes before, 15, 20 minutes. For the ones you think may be a little fuller, show up at the beginning of the previous panel.
Yeah.
Maybe even a few minutes before that when they're doing the changeover, so that you can possibly even get in during that panel before and sit and wait in the room itself and not have to stand out in line.
Yeah,
so,
it's way more fun to sit and wait inside a panel than it is to sit in the hall for an hour. Yes.
Exactly. And the Mononoke screening, I don't know if that's going to fill up, because obviously it is a 25-year-old movie, but it's also a very popular movie. So, it's your call on that one, how early you would want to go, but I don't think you would probably need to get there super early. Damian Shaw in the chat says the Avatar podcast panel easily fills up the room with people waiting outside. So that is good to know. So definitely get there the panel before. Or the panel.
I'm a little surprised that's not in a larger room.
It does seat 1,000, but yeah, I mean, Frank Miller in that room is a little surprising too. But I mean, the next size up is 2,000. So I don't know, what do you do? It's kind of like, it's that judgment call of putting this schedule together it's tough to do.
Yeah, but yeah, like I said, I think that one will be busier than James apparently does. So for that one, Avatar? Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So Avatar, show up before Transformers starts. Show up during the Proud Family
Yeah.
to make sure you get in.
Yeah. That's what I would suggest.
And then you get to see Transformers and Danny Pudi and all that kind
Yeah,
of stuff. So
come
if
on.
you make it in. So there you go. Next up is room 6 BCF with Kim.
Yes, so that holds 2,160. Starts the day at 10:15 with Multiverses. We get a behind-the-scenes look at Multiverses, which is a new free-to-play platform fighter video game. Features characters from DC Comics to Looney Tunes to Game of Thrones and many others. Details from panelist Tony Hoon, co-founder of Player First Games and game director for Multiverses, and Shaloman Bird, executive producer at Warner Brothers Games, along with Multiverses actors Matthew Lillard, reprising his role of Shaggy, is doing the voice, and fan favorite Tara Strong. At 11:30, we've got Sea of Thieves, The Golden Age of Storytelling, which I just checked and still had no description. So if that interests you, check a little bit later to see if they've added a description of what that is going to be. At 12:45, we go to the world of Capcom. Get a peek at Capcom's upcoming games with the latest trailers and news. No panelists listed so far. 2 p.m. Capcom Street Fighter and Capcom Fighting Collection celebrate the latest announcements coming out of the legendary fighting franchise. As the development team discusses Street Fighter 6, 35th Street Fighter Anniversary, and Capcom Fighting Collection, fun prizes, and more. And I believe Robert on the team said that this is the first look at Street Fighter that people will see, so that might be kind of big. 3:15 to 4:15 is TMNT Cowabunga Collection. Charles Murakami, producer from Konami, Chris Kohler, editorial director from developer Digital Eclipse, and Turtles co-creator Kevin Eastman discuss Turtles Konami gaming, past and present. 4:30, No Logical Choices, the Star Trek Resurgence interactive experience. Presenting themes from the upcoming narrative adventure game, Star Trek Resurgence, with Graydon Miller, Dan Martin, Mike Johnson, Andrew Grant, the writers, and Henry Alonzo Myers, who is an executive producer on Strange New Worlds. They discuss, argue, and opine about the choices and dilemmas presented in the game, followed by a Q&A. 5:45 is The Walking Dead Last Mile, which is the next big installment in the beloved franchise created by Robert Kirkman. This time, the story is driven by fans. Actor, comedian, Walking Dead superfan Yvette Nicole Brown and actor-creator Felicia Day will co-moderate the discussion with Massively Interactive Live Event, or MILE, creator Jacob Navok, executive Mike Rogers of Skybound Entertainment, senior writer and producer Jessica Woodward of Terrible Posture Games, and Matthew Ball, metaverse author and producer of the game. Team will show the latest details of the MILE exclusively on Facebook, and all attendees will receive an exclusive t-shirt. At 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. is The Great North. The Tobin family hosts a hilarious conversation about their outrageous Alaskan adventures on Fox's hit animated series, The Great North. Creators and executive producers Wendy Molyneux and Lizzie Molyneux-Lojlin, executive producer Lauren Bouchard, and stars Nick Offerman, Dulce Sloan, Paul Rust, Aparna Nancherla, and Ron Funches discuss what's to come and preview the upcoming third season with exclusive clips, breaking news, special appearances from star Jenny Slate, I'm assuming that might be virtual, and more. 8:15 to 9:15, Worst Cartoons Ever, hosted by Jerry Beck, making its 18th appearance at San Diego Comic-Con, esteemed animation historian Jerry Beck from cartoonresearch.com will foist a selection of the most terribly written, ugliest drawn, and unintentionally funniest animated films ever made. 9:30 ends the night, runs late till 11:30 p.m. Spike and Mike's Sick and Twisted Festival Animation. The original festival of animation theatrically premiered such films as Wallace and Gromit, short films by Pixar's Pete Docter, who did Up, and Andrew Stanton, Finding Nemo, and Tim Burton. The festival is known for cutting-edge lineup of classic and award-winning animation short films, showcasing a variety of styles. And this is appropriate for all ages, but kids should be in bed by 11:30, well before 11:30. So I appreciate that, you know, that's gaming and animation in that room. They're kind of theming these rooms like the Star Wars Day. That's really nice.
For sure. Okay, so let's talk room flow. I think that Walking Dead panel, I think, will probably be fairly well attended, and I think the Great North will probably be fairly well attended. And I'm not sure you need to worry about much more than that. What do you think, James?
It doesn't seem like it. I mean, Turtles has a pretty big fandom, and Kevin Eastman will be there. But it is a 2,000 seat room, so. And Multiverses, I mean, with Matthew Lillard and Tara Strong has a really big following. So again, I don't know if it's going to fill up 2,000, but it's definitely going to be popular.
Yeah, I just don't know that I see any of those other ones filling up. I think my personal opinion is the two you need to worry about is The Walking Dead Last Mile and The Great North. But both of those are also much later in the day, which definitely helps. Yes, because by the end of the day, people are hungry. They want to go back to their hotel. They have parties or offsites, or whatever. So that definitely helps with getting into those rooms. But if I wanted to attend either of those, I would probably get there at least an hour early. Or again, just keep an eye on Twitter. Like we will the whole weekend be tweeting and retweeting you line updates, which also means if you are in line and you see like, hey, this line is filling up, like please feel free to tweet it at us because that helps everyone. But yeah.
And the Walking Dead and the Great North probably won't have a large amount of crossover. No, so again, you can go if you want to go see the Great North, show up during the Walking Dead, you should be fine. So nothing big. Now, I do want to mention, I know that Kim mentioned that the Spike and Mike says it's appropriate for all ages, but kids should be in bed. I mean, why are they calling it the Sick and Twisted Festival if it's appropriate for all ages? Yeah, I mean, it kind of ruins the point. Sick and Twisted is supposed to be the sick and twisted stuff. Come on. But it's Comic-Con and they can't have that kind of stuff where just anyone can walk in and see it. So I understand. Anyway.
All right. Indigo, which again is over at the Hilton Bayfront and again holds around 2,600. It starts off the day at 10 a.m. with That's Not All, Folks, Looney Tunes for Everyone. And it is basically a look at the latest from Looney Tunes, including the new series Bugs Bunny Builders, the new Tiny Toons Looniversity, and bonus surprises. It will include Eric Bauza, the voice of Bugs Bunny, Tweety, Daffy Duck, and more. He will be moderating an all-star panel with Alex Kerwan and some other executive producers of those shows. And it says you can stick around for sneak peeks, giveaways, and Looney games. At 11 is the origin story you've been waiting for, Gremlins, Secrets of the Mogwai. And it will include some executive producers alongside the art director, Isaac Wang, AJ Lucasio, Gabrielle Neva Green, and others to unveil the first clues to unlocking the secrets of the Mogwai that will leave you hungry for an adventure. Just don't eat after midnight. At 12 is Smiling Friends discussion and Q&A, which includes Michael Cusack and Zach Hadel, the creators behind the new Adult Swim series Smiling Friends, to reveal what's in store for that show. At 1 p.m. is Gendry Tartakovsky's Primal Season 2 discussion and Q&A, and that will include the director of the show and animation legend Gendry Tartakovsky. At 2 p.m. is Rick and Morty, The Vindicators, screening and Q&A, and you can join some of the producers for a first look at the Adult Swim digital series The Vindicators, based on breakout characters from Rick and Morty. Be the first to watch Supernova, Vance Maximus, Alan Rails, Crocubot, and Noob Noob fight crime, avert genocides, and yuck it up without Rick and Morty. At 3 o'clock is Bob's Burgers, which will be very popular, but we'll talk about that in a minute, which will include several of the cast members, including H. John Benjamin, John Roberts, Kristen Shaw, Eugene Meerman, Dan Mintz, and Larry Murphy. They will show never-before-seen footage, followed by a lively panel discussion and Q&A. At 4 p.m. is FX's Little Demon, 1, exclusive pre-series premiere sneak peek screening and Q&A. And if you don't know what this show is, it's basically 13 years after being impregnated by Satan, as played by Danny DeVito. It is animation, but as played by Danny DeVito, a reluctant mother, Laura, Aubrey Plaza, and her Antichrist daughter, Chrissy, attempt to live an ordinary life. It was kind of fun. But it will have Danny DeVito, Aubrey Plaza, Lucy DeVito, and the creators. And then at 5 p.m. is FX's Archer, exclusive season 13 screening and Q&A. This is always popular. It will include cast members H. John Benjamin, Aisha Tyler, Chris Parnell, Judy Greer, Amber Nash, and Lucky Yates. And then at 8 is the Will Eisner Comic Industry Awards. And I also, before we talk room flow, I just want to say that if we are getting Rob McElhenney and Denny DeVito, why are we not getting a It's Always Sunny panel? Come on. We've got 2 of the cast members here in San Diego. Why is it not happening, FX?
Throwing it out into the universe.
Yes, just throwing it out there. Come on now. All right, let's talk room flow. I mean, this is going to be a pretty busy room because, and it always is, honestly, this is always a packed day because if you are into animation stuff, like this is your day. Bob's Burgers is always huge. And honestly, if you want to get into Bob's Burgers, we say this every year, but honestly, like get there first thing in the morning. Like go for the first panel. You're going to be sitting there all day because that thing has a line. And yeah.
So for the other panels before Bob's Burgers, do you then have to suggest be there early as well and then just sit through?
Yep. I think if you want to see anything from Bob's Burgers or before, if you want to get into that room, like you need to be there by 10. Because Bob's Burgers always has a huge line. They pack that room. I don't know how popular that Rick and Morty The Vindicators will be. Like if it was Rick and Morty popular, I also think that would be like slammed. But because this is like a spin-off, I don't know how popular that's going to be. But like I said, Bob's Burgers is always very popular. Archer, which is later in the day, is always very popular.
So do you think because it's after that the Archer panel will be easier to get into?
Yes. I think Bob's Burgers is the biggest panel of the day in here. Again,
Okay.
It is every year because they basically do a similar lineup to this every year. Yeah.
So you think that Little Demon and Archer should be pretty easy to get into after Bob's Burgers clears out?
Yes. I would say if you want to go to those, like basically line up like while Bob's is in the room and then you'll be fine.
Okay. Then what about the Eisners? Because I'm pretty sure they clear the room for the Eisners because there's that 2-hour gap because they have to set up for the Eisners.
Yes, correct.
So the Eisners is usually crowded. So if you want to go, make sure you're there early.
Yep.
So next up, we have Ballroom 20, which again seats 4,800. And it kicks off at 10 a.m. with the 22nd annual animation show of shows with Ron Diamond presenting a collection of cartoons from around the world. And will also include an audience Q&A with one of the animators directors, Joe Muris. At 11:45 will be Marvel Studios. No, not that Marvel Studios. This will be the head of streaming television and animation, Brad Winterbaum, the head of visual development, Ryan Maynarding, and special guests will look into X-Men 97, Marvel Zombies, and What If Season 2, and more. So it's basically going to be covering the animated side of Marvel Studios. At 1:30, we have Paper Girls from Amazon and Legendary and Plan B, which will, it's basically based on the Brian K. Vaughan and Cliff Chiang graphic novel. And it says the cast, creators, and executive producers will present an in-depth look at what to expect from this show. It doesn't say who will be there, but I mean, if it says cast and creators, we can basically expect to see some or all of the main cast, probably Brian K. Vaughan, and some of the writers and producers of the show.
Hold on, I may know the answer.
I would
to
expect.
this. Maybe I don't. Okay, carry on.
And then at 2:45, we have the alternate world of For All Mankind. And Kelly Lawler leads a conversation with the creators and executive producers Ronald D. Moore, Matt Wolpert, Ben Nadivi, and are joined by executive producer Meryl Davis and cast members Joel Kinnaman, Chantel Van Santen, Jodie Balfour, Sonia Wilder, Chris Marshall, Cynthia Wu, Casey Johnson, Coral Pena, Ren Schmidt, and Edie Gathegi to discuss the third season of the critically acclaimed Apple TV Plus alternate reality series. At 4 p.m., we have the annual Entertainment Weekly Brave New Warriors panel, which will feature a selection of actors from the different panels that are going to be there that weekend. They just gather a few of them up to bring them all onto one panel. So basically, it's a good chance to see some of your favorite actors or actresses from other panels that you may not be able to get into, but they may be on this panel. So if you always want to see them, hear them talk about Hollywood and all that kind of stuff and their shows, there's a chance. And then at 5:15, we have Nandor Fodor and the Talking Mongoose, which is a new show from, what is it? Is it on Hulu?
I think Legion
no,
M is bringing it.
It's not a TV show. It's a movie.
Oh, it's a movie. Okay. So it's going to be with Christopher Lloyd and Ruth Connell, and there will be a special video message from Simon Pegg. And it says from Minnie Driver, but we now got information that Minnie Driver will actually be there. So no video message from Minnie Driver. She will be there. Yep. And also Adam Sigel, the director, will be there to talk about it.
Yes.
And then at 6:30, we have the world premiere Green Lantern Beware My Power, which is the annual WB Home Entertainment release of a DC Universe animated movie. And what they do is they show it, and then they bring out a bunch of the voice cast and creators, and they have a Q&A. And this time it will feature Aldous Hodge, Jimmy Simpson, Jamie Gray Hyder, Brian Bloom, along with producers and director. So the producer, Bush Luchik, and director, Jeff Wamister, screenwriters, John Semper and Ernie Altbacker, and of course, hosted by Gary Marino of WB Home Entertainment. And then immediately after the 8 o'clock or the 6:30 panel will be the 8:45 panel, screening it again if you missed it the first time. And that is a wrap for Ballroom 20. What do we think?
I don't know. I think that Marvel Studios panel in the morning, I think it's going to be pretty popular because I think here's the funny thing is honestly, a lot of these animation shows usually go and are in a smaller room. But I feel like the fact that they have named this panel Marvel Studios is actually going to drive way more people to it rather than it being titled, like X-Men 97,
right?
Or something like that. So I feel like actually I think that panel might be packed. Paper Girls, I'm not sure about. Like, I know the comic is popular, but I just don't know if a lot of like the TV people necessarily know a lot about this show. But I think it will be fairly popular. For All Mankind is a freaking fantastic show, as at least Kim and I are very fully aware of. But again, I don't know how many people watch it.
Which is the problem with all of the Apple Plus stuff is because not a ton of people have it yet. You don't know what the popularity is. So it's really hard to judge.
It's very hard to judge. This is also their very first year here. And Apple TV just in no way pays me. But let me just straight up say Apple TV is my favorite streaming service. So if you like TV, go watch basically anything on their platform, but do it after Comic-Con so that I can get into the panels that I want to.
So do we think that the Marvel Studios panel is going to be the biggest panel of the day in here? Or just because people may think that something may happen there?
I truly think that like the fact that that panel is just named Marvel Studios, I mean, people don't read, like they're going to see Marvel Studios is in Ballroom 20 at 11:45 a.m. Let's go. Like
and for the people who do read, the nice thing is that like What If Season 1 had slight tie-ins to actual things that happened in movies and TV shows. Not direct tie-ins really necessarily, but at least, well, they were like, okay, this thing happened, and then I saw a similar thing in the movie. So they count for people who are worried about like, well, I know that there are people who say it, but like animated doesn't count. It's like, well, I mean, they're making
What
it to where it does.
What if I feel like did count? I agree with that. Yeah. So again, I feel like Marvel Studios, my personal opinion, is going to be the busiest panel of the day in here. But all of these, I think, will be like relatively well attended. I don't really feel like it's like, oh, you need to line up like 2 hours early kind of thing. I think probably for the rest of these, if you lined up like 30 minutes to an hour early, like you will be fine. I think a lot of these, honestly, you can probably line up even like 20 minutes before. But again, if you are worried, show up an hour early. Like if you really want to see For All Mankind, like don't show up 20 minutes before, show up a little bit earlier.
Yeah. Yeah. If it's your
also-
thing, go ahead, Kim.
I was just going to say, it also depends on who gets announced. Like for Entertainment Weekly, that Brave New Warriors panel has had amazing guests in the past, but there's no one listed right now.
Yes.
And if Mini Driver maybe gets officially announced for Nandor Fodor, which is fun to say.
I know. I feel like it should be Nandor or Fandor, but that's just me. But yes. Yes.
Oh, now I'm going to say it like that. That's a problem.
I've been saying it like that the whole time in my head. Anyway, okay.
So
yes.
here's what I wanted to say about if one of these panels is your thing you picked, because remember we say pick one thing that you have to do and then have some backups. If this is your one thing to do, show up 2 panels early to make sure there's no problem. Pay attention to Twitter. If you want to go to one of the later panels like the Brave New Warriors or the Nandor panel, pay attention 5 hours early during, this is Marvel Studios and Paper Girls, and see if the Marvel Studios panel cleared out and Paper Girls has room, because then it's basically going to stay like that for the rest of the day. If Paper Girls is packed and there's a line for Ballroom 20 during and before Paper Girls, then you may want to start heading over there earlier than you thought, because then the room may actually stay full.
Yeah. I mean, Twitter really is your friend, especially during the convention.
But otherwise, this room should be like we said for Thursday, which is full, but not completely full, and there will be some changeover as the day goes around, so there will be chances to come and go.
Yes, I maintain, I think so many people are going to show up to that Marvel Studios panel, like thinking that's like Kevin Feige. Mark my words, because nobody reads. But we'll see. Yeah. On to Hall H. Kim.
Awesome. All right. I get the big one. So that's 6,500 people. 10:30 on Friday. It starts with big time Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power from Prime Video. And if you know, you're going to want to be there. And it lists a whole bunch of casts because it's Lord of the Rings. I'm not going to go through for the sake of time, but that's going to be something you're going to want to see if you're looking forward to that show, obviously. 12:30 to 1:30, AMC Tales of the Walking Dead, a new series within the Walking Dead universe with cast and creatives from the show. Again, no one specifically listed. I don't know if AMC just hadn't announced them yet. Were they in the press release, do you know, offhand, for this and the next Walking Dead panel?
Yes, actually they were. Hold on.
Okay, well. So 12:30, Tales of the Walking Dead, followed by 1:30, The Walking Dead, of the flagship series that we will get information for shortly.
Okay, I've got the cast members if you want them.
Right.
Okay, so to start with, Tales of the Walking Dead will be moderated by Chris Hardwick and feature it lists some executive producers. Maybe I lied. Maybe it only lists the executive producers. Oh no, cast members Terry Crews, Samantha Morton, and Danny Ramirez. And then for The Walking Dead proper, it is Norman Reedus, Melissa McBride, Christian Serratos, Ross Marquand, Carrie Payton, Seth Gilliam, Josh McDermott, Michael James Shaw, Kaylee Fleming, and Lauren Riddoff.
Excellent. So must 2-hour block for 2-hour block for the Walking Dead fans. And also big following that at 3 is Keanu Reeves' Berserker, The Immortal Saga Continues, which debuted his comic with co-writer Matt Kint and screenwriter on the Berserker film. Matt Tomlinson and Matt Gagnon of some Boom Studios members there. That's going to be pretty big. So, we'll get to that. 4:30 to 5:30, Dragon Ball Super Superhero, also huge. I guess it'll fit everyone, though it is Hall H. Looking at exclusive look at the first 20 minutes of the upcoming movie, and with giveaways listed. 6 to 7 is Collider, directors on directing, with Tim Miller, director of Deadpool, Andrew Stanton, director of Finding Nemo, Wall-E, and John Carter, and Chad Stahelski, director of the John Wick franchise. I wonder if Keanu might show up again. Take part in arranging an in-depth discussion about the craft of directing, and moderated by Collider's editor-in-chief, Stephen Weintraub. So that's a big day in Hall H.
It is. It's a very good day in Hall H, and it's going to be a very busy day.
Yes, it is.
So The Walking Dead always fills up Hall H.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's ever going to change until like we're a few years down the road when there's the spinoffs are probably losing a little bit of steam. So you can expect those to be very popular. Leading off with Lord of the Rings.
Oh yeah, that's going to be packed.
It's going to, and they're bringing so many people.
Yes.
So many. So if you want to see the cast and meet them for the first time and see the panel and see whatever they're going to bring, that is the place to be. And then of course, Keanu. I mean, Keanu is huge. So
yeah. My God, so many people were going nuts over that news today. Like so many people. Yeah.
Oh, finally, Keanu's coming to Comic-Con. It's like, yeah, well, if you were there in 2004, you saw him for Constantine. So I think Keanu was actually one of the very first big names, but also was one of the first people to kick off actual Hall H. He was one of the first, for Constantine, was one of the very first panels in Hall H.
Oh, well, and it looks like he hasn't been in person since 2008 is what I saw, but he had an amazing online panel last year. I think we were gypped of a Matrix reunion panel, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But
I think we got also the Bill and Ted virtual.
Yeah.
So yeah. And then of course Dragon Ball is huge, and they're going to show 20 minutes of the movie and have giveaways, so that's going to be popular. The only thing is the Collider panel with directors on directing. If people just see the names and they don't connect it to the films and who may be there, if they think their only chance to see Keanu is during the Keanu panel, well, I mean, if the director of the John Wick franchise is there and they may have like a trailer to show or something, why wouldn't they bring Keanu back out for a few minutes just to talk about it for a few minutes? Yeah. So I don't know if the Collider directors on directing panel will actually be full. I think people may be like, well, it's the end of the day. Again, like you mentioned, people are tired. I was in Hall H all day. I'm going to go there. That may be your chance to see something. We can't guarantee that Keanu Reeves is going to be there, but it makes sense that he would show up at least for a few minutes.
Okay, so let's talk about the elephant in the room. How early do you need to line up to make it into this room? I think this is basically going to be like the old Game of Thrones days where
you basically had to get in line like in late afternoon the day before to get your wristband. Because again, now the wristband situation with Hall H means the line is still going to be there. It just moved when you have to be there. So if you just want in the room, then you're going to need to show up a few hours before they hand out wristbands, probably, unless you hear that the line isn't long. If you're paying attention to Twitter and what the next day line seems like. But yeah, a few hours before, maybe 5 o'clock.
I was thinking like 3. Yeah, I think between 3 and 5 is probably like if you were not in line by then, like as crazy as that sounds to anybody who's never done it before, like you may not make it in. Now, I mean, we haven't talked about this yet. I do think there will be a slightly less amount of people at Comic-Con this year. Now, I don't think it's not going to be like 50% less or anything crazy like that. I mean, I think it might be like 10% less or something like that. So maybe that's the difference between having to line up at 3 p.m. and 5 p.m. But this is going to be a super packed day. And
let's talk about it, because we were so shocked by how little panel attendance there was at WonderCon. It was shocking. Even Bob's Burgers didn't fill the room. And so, but the thing is that was the difference with this show is that was a bunch of people who bought passes for that show that year. This is a bunch of people who have their passes from 2019 who are normal Comic-Con attendees who have done things in the past for the most part, and they do go to panels. I don't think a lot of panel attendees bought WonderCon passes, which is why they were so low attended than normal.
Yeah,
So
I agree. I think
this is going to be basically just like you said, 10, 15, maybe 20% less people, but I think it's going to definitely be in the 10 to 15% range. Fewer people there in general. So you can expect a slightly easier time for some cases, but in other cases like this, it's still going to be packed.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and I mean, it's Lord of the Rings, it's Walking Dead, it's Keanu Reeves. Like, so yeah, I mean,
do we think that there's going to be any turnover, or do you think that this is going to be the kind of Hall H crowd which is like, I'm in until Keanu's done, or I'm in until Dragon Ball is done, and that way, therefore, there will be very little turnover?
I think people will leave after Keanu. That is my guess. I just don't see a lot of the Keanu people being the Dragon Ball people. And I mean, maybe they decide to stay through the Collider panel. But I think that room's going to clear out quite a bit after Keanu is my guess.
And you also have to consider that a lot of the people that are Hall H people who want to see this kind of stuff will also want to see Saturday.
Yeah.
And that would require them to get in line for things and do their shifts and whatnot. So there may be some turnover as we get closer, like the 4 p.m. Keanu Reeves panel when it ends. Yeah. There may be a mass exodus for all the people who want to get in line for the next day.
I agree.
So I think that, yes, the Dragon Ball, if you want to see Dragon Ball, and that's really the only thing you want to see, you probably aren't going to need to show up until 2 to 3 o'clock.
Yeah.
Maybe. So... And then, of course, for the Collider panel, I think that one you'll be able to get into fairly easily.
I think so.
I think it'll be fairly crowded, but I think it's going to be, I don't think it's going to fill up.
Yeah, I completely agree. What the Bug says, you don't think people will leave after Lord of the Rings and also after Walking Dead? I mean, some people will, but I feel like most people, if you've put in that amount of time, most people are going to stay, especially like if you know Keanu Reeves is later in the day, like I think a lot of those people will stay. But yeah, I mean, like for sure, some people will leave after Lord of the Rings.
We're talking hundreds. We're talking hundreds, not thousands.
Thousands, yes.
And you need thousands to move if you're going to show up an hour or two before. Yeah. Thousands need to leave in order for it to cycle enough.
Yeah, that's pretty much exactly it. Yeah, this is going to be our first like real like back to the good old Comic-Con days lineup and it's going to be crazy and it's going to be long. So
Kim D asked how long wristbands take and how many do they give out. If you rewind to the beginning of the show, we answered that, but basically it takes a long time and they hand out about 6,000. Yeah.
Well, this podcast has gone on for 2 hours. Let's talk again real quick about the Hall H wristbands. Yeah, so they give out wristbands at a different time each night. You can find that information online. But you can start lining up well before they give out wristbands. Once you get your wristband, they are numbered A through D. Each wristband represents roughly a quarter of the room. Each wristband is roughly like 1,500 or so. Once you get your wristband, you are free to leave and you can come back so long as you're in line by, is it 7:30 a.m.?
7:30 a.m.
So long as you are back in line by 7:30 a.m., you are not guaranteed, but pretty much guaranteed to make it into the first panel of the day. Now, that does not mean that if you got an A wristband and you leave and nobody holds your place in line, that you can go back to the A's. That means that if you leave and nobody holds your place in line, you go to the end of the wristbands, which means you'll be towards the back of Hall H, but you got to sleep in a hotel bed instead of on the ground.
Yeah. So what the A through D really means is it's just to judge how many people are in front of you. If you have a B wristband, then you know the entirety of A, which means an entire quarter of the room is in front of you minimum. Yeah. If you have a D, that means 3/4 of the room minimum is in front of you. It's just to judge where you are in line and how many people are in front of you. And if you leave, that means you're at the back of the line. So everybody's in front of you at that point.
Yeah.
Who didn't leave. Yeah. And so, but if someone does hold your place, you can come back to that place, of course. Yeah. So always be in line around the time that they start handing them out, depending on how close to the front you are. the closer to the front you are, the more you absolutely need to be there before they start handing them out, just in case.
It will take hours.
It will take hours, but they tend to like get up to speed. So the longer they go, if they keep the same number of people working, the faster they go, because they just get, they get better at it. And they get faster as they go. And
drunk Obi-Wan just asked, and if you decide to stay, you can hold the spot up to 5 people. Yes, that's the official rule, is you can hold the spot for up to 5 people. Whether or not that is enforced is always
if you have one of those mega groups of like 40 people, you need to leave 8 people.
Yep.
Good math.
Yeah, I picked a good round number.
Well, there is a chance with first year back and all that the next day line may be short. Maybe not a lot of wristbands will get passed out, and maybe walking in will be allowed the next day.
Yeah. If they don't have a long enough line to hand out the wristbands, they'll just stop, and then it'll just be line up, and they won't hand out wristbands anymore because there wasn't enough people in line to hand them out. So yeah, and that's happened before too. So
I think they keep handing wristbands out throughout the morning. Like, even
do they just hand them as people get in line?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure, because I know it's been like 6, 7 in the morning before, and people have tweeted us like, "Hey, they're still just on C." So
right. So they basically hand them out as people get in line until they're out of wristbands, even if there's no line to go through, but as they come in.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, I'm positive that's happened, because I know we've tweeted that. I know Sean jumped in line one year and was like, "I wouldn't have gotten it all 8 if I hadn't seen that." Right. So
let's do real quick some dark horses for Friday. Looks like Carrie has hers ready to go.
Sure, I'll do mine. So Z2 Comics is bringing actress Emily Hampshire to, why did I not write down the time on this? To a smaller room. Go look it up on Avidity. But basically, Emily Hampshire, who was in Schitt's Creek, will be there to talk about her upcoming sci-fi comic book.
The Rig.
No, that's her TV show. Amelia Airwood Basic Witch. There we go. Yes. That's it. That's what I have to say.
Okay. That's it. I'm gonna look up the room for you, but I'll just go. I picked We Are Groot large cosplay on a budget, which just sounds amazing. Several people, but panelists show how they discuss techniques and how they used them to make a 7'4" Gladiator Hulk costume and a Princess Ariel wheelchair costume through the Magic Wheelchair nonprofit organization. Sounds just an interesting panel. That is Friday, 10 a.m. in Grand 10 and 11 at the Marriott Marquis. And then I also had Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles film Still Mutating After 32 Years, which is room 29 CD at 1:30 p.m. With producers of the first 3 films and TMNT documentary and Randy from NECA show their stories on the franchise's success. And we know Kevin Eastman's on another panel that day. I don't know if it's the same time or not, but that's a very good chance he might be stopping in there. I mean, I don't know, but there's a chance. He's around.
All right. So I actually have only 2 this time, which is crazy, I know. The first one is The Multiverse of David Dastmalchian in room 5AB at 3:30 p.m. And it's actor David Dastmalchian basically talking about experiences crossing between fandoms and franchises, because he's been in things like Dune and Suicide Squad and Ant-Man, and he's got his own comic that he's writing called Count Crowley. And I just wanted to mention this because he was also at WonderCon, and it was a really late announcement, so almost no one knew he was going to be there. So it was like halfway through the Bob's Burgers panel. So after the Bob's Burgers panel was over, we went over there, and there was like 30 people in the room, and he got off the stage and he was down on the floor, sitting in a chair, chatting with people and just answering questions just by, no mic, just chatting with people. And he was nice and thoughtful, and he sounded really cool, and he had some really good answers to things. And I just thought that someone like that should be pointed out, and maybe you should go listen to him talk because he's a pretty cool guy. Plus, he plays some really cool characters in some of the greatest and coolest movies that have come out over the last few years. So I just thought I'd point that out. And then at 12:30 in room 29 CD is The Making of a Comic Book Page, which is Mark Wade and Christian Gossett Villa will basically take you through the collaborative process of creating an actual comic book page where Mark Wade will write a comic, write what's going to be on the comic page, and then Christian will draw it right there while the panel is going. So I think that would be a pretty cool thing to see a comic book page being created while you watch. And I think that's about it. I mean,
Yeah.
So a couple of questions I wanted to handle, which is Will Burton earlier asked what's some good Twitter accounts to follow during Comic-Con.
Can I answer this?
Carrie can answer that.
Okay. We actually have two lists for Twitter lists for Comic-Con. One is inside the convention center and one is out. You can find those lists literally on our Twitter, but we also have articles that talk about the accounts. I have not tweeted them yet this year. I was waiting, but I will do that tomorrow just for you. So
there you go. We have them. And so follow our Twitter and Carrie will let you know about where they are.
Yes.
And then Headless Ned Stark, who asked earlier, I saw that Star Trek is in Hall H tomorrow, which is what they revealed today. They're going to have a nice big mega panel with 3 different shows. Where is the House of the Dragon going to fall? So where is Hot D going to be at SDCC?
tell us about the Hot D.
And it is going to be where Game of Thrones normally was, which is smack dab in the middle of Hall H on Saturday. I mean, where else could it be at this point?
Yeah.
So we're going to.
What time was the
Go ahead.
What time is the Black Adam? Oh, we don't know. We don't know the times yet. Black Adams also will be announced tomorrow.
We don't know the times, but basically assume it's going to kick off with WB in the morning on Saturday.
It always does.
It's going to be an hour and a half to 2 hours, depending on how much they bring. Then next up is going to be Star Trek because they already announced it's going to be at 12:15, and it's going to be like an hour and a half. So the next thing after that is either going to be Sandman or or Hot D. Sorry, not Game of Thrones, but Hot D or Sandman. And then after that will be either Sandman or Hot D, depending on which one wasn't first. And then it's going to be Marvel. And then it's going to be Kevin Smith.
Kevin Smith. Yeah.
And that's going to be your Hall H tomorrow. I mean, we'll find out if I'm right. I'm pretty sure I am, but we'll find out. They may have thrown something onto Sunday, but I'm pretty sure. And I don't see Sandman being in Ballroom 20, right? I just don't think it can be.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. I almost actually tweeted your prediction this morning, but then I was like, nah, I'm not going to do that. Yeah, no, I think that's a pretty good question. Fandom Comic asked in the chat, Shazam, that would be part of the WB panel.
Right.
Yeah.
That's part of the WB DCU panel, which will be Black Adam, Shazam, and then whatever else they feel like bringing, which they have not announced anything else yet.
Okay, so can I move off panels for like 1 minute?
You may. I will allow it.
Okay, we've had 80,000 questions about the exclusives portal. And here's the deal, guys. I don't know. You don't know. Comic-Con knows, but they haven't posted anything. So even though it's like live, it seems glitchy and it's missing a bunch of stuff that we kind of thought might be in there, like Lego potentially. And then Tamashii Nations was part of it in 2019. They're not in there. So I don't know. My suggestion would be don't do it tonight if you have not already done it. Let's wait until tomorrow. Let's see if Comic-Con actually posts something about it. Unfortunately, they have not said when it will close. If they did that, I think we'd all be a lot less itchy about it. But yeah, it's really glitchy right now. I don't even know that they meant it to be like live tonight, but it is. So my suggestion is just hold off. Nobody knows. Just I know we're all like, I want to do it right now.
Right. So this is one time where you don't have to be that nerd way of being first.
Yeah.
You can wait because it's not going to close until it closes, and you don't have to worry about your selections until before it closes. So
unfortunately, though, they did not say when it's going to close.
But it's going to not be tomorrow morning at 8 a.m.
No, it will for sure not be tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. So yeah, I would definitely wait. And another good reason, like why not to submit it now, is because if you submit, what if they add something else that you wanted to do more? And now
in the past, they have had the remove and re-add feature.
But that was under the old system.
That was the old system, and they redid their system. So will it work now? Who knows? So again, let's give it time for them to do their work and see if they do a few things. And someone mentioned that not everyone can actually use it. That's correct. There are certain types of badges that haven't been able to use it. Will they activate those so that they are able to use it? We don't know. We'll find out. When we know something, we'll let you know. So, I mean,
right now, the people who I know can use it is general attendees, professionals, and professionals guests. I've heard that volunteers can't. I've heard that press can't. And in the past, press for sure has been able to. The weird thing is, in the past, professionals have not been able to and press have. And now it's like flip-flopped. So is that just a weird quirk of the system? Like, have they actually changed it? I don't know. We're just going to have to wait to find out.
Okay. So what does that mean is we will be available for another schedule podcast on Sunday afternoon at 4 p.m. Pacific. We will be covering Saturday and Sunday's schedules and doing the same thing, go through the rooms, talk about room flow, talk about when to line up, answer some questions. And then we will be back on Tuesday for the normal final podcast of the season before Comic-Con. And that one will be covering all of the news that has come out in the last week, stuff that we're not covering right now because this is just for the schedule. We're going to do some question and answer, and we'll basically just wrap up and get ready for the big show a week later.
Yeah.
I mean, it's 12 days away.
It's 12 days away. I don't know if you've noticed. I certainly have that there's been a lot of Comic-Con news of late.
There's been a lot of news, Everybody waited till the last 2 weeks. Normally they wait until maybe the last month, but now it's the last 2 weeks.
Yeah. So we're trying to keep up. Yeah, I know. We're hopefully you guys still think we're doing a good job. We're trying very, very hard. Yeah.
We're trying. Well, you guys are doing a good job. I'm moral support and jokes.
Yes.
And doing this podcast.
James Stradamus, as Andy says.
And making guesses that I can basically say are almost guaranteed because it's basically what Comic-Con does every time. And
yes,
if you go enough, you see the patterns.
Yes, they love their patterns and they love their timelines. And I wish actually they loved them a little bit more this year.
Okay, so there's attendee of the week. Are we doing that one more time? Many more times?
Yes. One more time. There will be one more attendee of the week next Friday. That will be the very last one. We have our newsletter. I'm positive we will send it out next week. I am not so sure about the week after, but I'm going to see if we can make that happen because the good news is our graphic designer is my Comic-Con roommate. So I think I have some sway there. Yeah.
Okay, so there is a contest currently up on the contest hub if you want to check out that. And don't forget that our Under the Tents column that we do probably 1 to 2 times a day now because there's so much news, has a lot of the news in there that doesn't get a full article because it's just not big enough for a full article. So that search button on the site, if you're looking for a particular artist or comic or toy or something, use the search feature on the site because it may be in an Under the Tent and there may be information on a signing or a commissions or something that you may have missed because it doesn't get a full article.
Yeah.
And I think that's about it. So again, Sunday, part 2, final one on Tuesday, Comic-Con in 12 days. And Kim, where can we find you on the internet?
Hi, thank you. I am Outside Comic-Con on Twitter mainly and also other social media. Carrie, where can we find more of your work on the internet?
You can find me on Twitter at Carrie Dixon very, very intermittently at the moment. James, where can we find more of your work on the internet?
You can find me everywhere at Dan Regal, and you can check out geekshotphoto.com for photography stuff and social media links for myself and my wife, Beth. And Beth is the producer of this show. She edits it, gets it into your ears. She does things like the slides when we do those, and you can check out her Instagram at TrekkieBeth and check out all the photos. She's going to have some awesome photos from things like Celebration and all kinds of stuff, Disney stuff, whatever. There's all kinds of cool photos on there because she's a great photographer.
Yes. Thank you,
and
Beth.
check all that stuff out.
Yes, thank you very much, Beth. We are on iTunes. If you'd like to subscribe, the links are up in the blog, or you can search for SDConCast. If you like what you've heard so far, please review us. We are also on Stitcher Radio. The link is in the show notes. We also have a Patreon. So if you appreciate what we do, we would love your support. Even $1 or $5 a month truly helps keep the lights on for us. We make no money. We use it all to basically keep the site going. And we also bring some really fun giveaways that we will be having for you guys this year. And I'm also going to mention Prize Mule, even though it's not written down here. At Prize Mule, we will have, I think it's like 18 or 19 different companies this year giving who have very graciously donated prizes that we will be giving away to you. And there are some absolutely amazing names on there, including, I forgot the list here, Bandai Namco Toys and Collectibles America, Committed Comics, Cryptozoic Entertainment, Diamonds Like Toys, Entertainment Earth, Factory Entertainment, Hasbro, Kid Robot, Mondo, NECA, Pop Minded by Hallmark, Priscilla Wilson, also known as Valor and Valium, Skybound, Symbiote Studios, Toddland, Toink, UCC Distributing, USAopoly, The Op, Viz, Yesterdays, and who knows, maybe even more. Yeah, so if you want to win prizes from all of those, just follow along with us on Twitter and you will see the mules and Gary.
There you go. And if you want to get a hold of us, you can send us an email at sdcomiccon.blog@gmail.com. Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/sdconblog, or tweet us at sd_comic_con. Thank you all for listening, and everybody, go shawarma. Where's the line? I gotta go get in line.